Parts of Los Angeles and Ventura counties are now under the highest level red flag fire warning. Dangerous winds expected to gust up to 70 miles per hour. Officials warn the conditions could cause explosive fire growth. At this moment, firefighters are racing to contain a new fire that erupted in Ventura County. Let's get right to CNN's Stephanie Elam. She is in the hard-hit Pacific Palisades. Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning, John. And the good news about that auto fire is that they're saying that they're able to stop it from progressing further, even though it is not contained yet. But this is exactly what officials want people to be aware of, the fact that we're going to see these stronger winds. And I can tell you it's starting to pick up a little bit here. We're going to see these stronger winds today and tomorrow. And just because we have the Palisades fire burning and the Eaton fire burning doesn't mean those are the only places where we could see blazes erupt and grow with these winds. And so that's why they're asking everyone to be prepared to evacuate. Have your emergency kit ready to go in case you do need to get out. And that was the situation for one couple in the Eaton fire. I want you to take a listen to Cheryl Koo. She was coming home from work when she saw the flames in the distance, and it was caught on their Ring camera. She was able to tell her husband Jeffrey that they needed to go. But take a listen to her experience.
We were in the panic mode of just trying to get out as fast as we can. We did see the embers flying. It was almost like snow flurries, but instead it's fire that's coming around. And we did not think about whether or not those embers were going to ignite on a dry brush around us. That it was just a matter of we had limited time and we had to go. But when we rewatched the footage, we didn't realize how many embers were flying around us, and it's almost like watching a horror movie in a way.
Now, the couple did wet down their roof and they did flee from their home, and their home, amazingly, is still standing. Of course, it is also worth noting that, according to the Los Angeles Times, investigators are looking into what was going on with one of the electrical transmission towers that was there. For their part, Southern California Edison, the power company, is saying that their equipment was working at the time, although they have been named in a lawsuit at this point. But still, all of this still a very active fire scene, and we have more threats today. That's the big takeaway. People need to be prepared, John.
Yeah, a critical 24 hours. People need to remain vigilant, which is hard because people are just exhausted. Stephanie Elam, thank you very much for your reporting. Kate?
Yeah, let's get the very latest. Joining us right now is Battalion Chief with CAL FIRE, David Acuna. Thanks so much for coming back in. Chief, winds picking back up today. What do 70 mile per hour gusts mean for firefighting efforts at this point?
Thank you so much for having me on here, Kate. And as Stephanie mentioned, yeah, there's so much wind blowing through. Imagine if you're driving down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, you stick your hand out flat and have the wind press against that. Then you look at it from the point of view of that is the wind that's happening from Ventura to northern LA, and the entire region of Southern California is under this red flag warning. That pressure just blows fire in the direction of the wind and will pick up these embers that we've been diligently trying to extinguish, and so they do not go over our control lines.
Will you have to ground planes and aircraft and helicopters once again?
So yes, when it gets over about 30 miles per hour, depending on the aircraft and the pilot's determinations, because they're professionals and dedicated, they want to be up. But over 30 miles per hour, it is unsafe to fly. It's unsafe for the aircraft, for the personnel, and of course for the people on the ground. Not to mention that if we release retardant at that level with 70 mile per hour winds, it's just going to turn into a mist that blows away without being effective.
It's actually an aspect of it that I hadn't even thought about, that the retardant, the whole purpose of having the plane up there is that you can actually target that fire retardant to a specific area, and that becomes almost impossible with these gusts. With all of that in mind, do you think you're going to see kind of I'll call it a backslide in containment today because of the conditions you're up against before you can make more progress in containment?
While I don't like saying never say never, but we generally will put down the containment that we're confident we can prevent it from expanding. However, where our real concern is the next fire. So we need the public's help in order to make sure we do not have any additional sparks, mowing, where you could strike a rock, no dragging change with the vehicle, make sure your vehicle is in good repair so it doesn't kick out a hot piece of catalytic converter 2,000 degrees, or even just simply having a campfire. Don't do any of that right now in this very, very high wind so that we can avoid another fire.
On the Eaton fire, we've seen these images of early flames under an electrical transmission tower. We've seen this Ring camera footage. We just played an interview with the couple from a home in Altadena, kind of capturing the small fire on the hillside by the home last Tuesday. And the LA Times is reporting that investigators have cordoned off the area around that tower. How seriously are investigators looking at those images? Do you think investigators are any closer today than yesterday in determining a cause of any of these fires?
Well, the professional investigators working on this are going to stay open to any cause. And of course, they want to look for something that may have been caught in some images, but keep in mind that is just one perspective. And so they have to look at the entire area and see what kind of information they can gather in order to make a proper determination using their investigative methods, ensuring that they're ruling out not only what couldn't have happened, but also making sure that they can determine exactly what piece of any sort of material, or if it was a person, or however that may have happened. They're going to make sure that they have that all dialed in before they release a report.
The investigation clearly underway, but are you getting a sense, as CAL FIRE, their aspect of being involved in it, is it's looking more or less like arson?
Well, again, it's really early in the investigation. Where we really want to focus right now is to understand that 95% of all fires are started by humans. But that's not all arson. It can be accidental. Again, with a rock strike, it could be a vehicle dragging chains. It can also be just simply not realizing that they had some sort of combustible material near grass. So it is important for the public to maintain their awareness and to help us not have any more fires.
Chief David Acuna, thank you for coming in. Good luck today.
Joining me now is California Congresswoman Sydney Kamlager-Dove. Thank you so much for joining us as you watch what is happening in Southern California. And I know that you've been there. You have seen firsthand the enormity of the damage in Altadena. When you look at the damage and the vastness of it, how long do you predict it may take to rebuild? Are we talking years, not months?
We are talking years. The tour I had in Altadena, I saw pure and utter devastation. And we have short-term and long-term needs, right? We certainly need to get out the facts of what's going on. Hydrants were not turned off. We have enough water. There's no system in the world that is prepared for typhoon winds and 0% humidity. These Santa Ana winds are superhighways for these embers. So we have to contain that, then we have to get into reconstruction, and we have to manage a healthcare crisis that we're seeing across LA County because of these fires.
You're talking about the acrid smoke that people are having to deal with, never mind some of the environmental impacts this has had. I do want to ask you about what we heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson. He said there should probably be, and this is his quote, probably be conditions on federal aid to California, saying, and I'm quoting here, it appears to us that state and local leaders were derelict in their duty in many respects. How do you respond to Johnson?
Well, I hope that he and his fellow Republicans understand that climate change is real, and we have seen natural disasters like this. Of course, this is unprecedented in states across this country: Florida, Texas, North Carolina, Hawaii. If you recall, Republicans tried to kill the disaster supplemental that we were finally able to pass before the end of the year to actually help those states continue with their recovery. So now he wants to condition aid. I'm really tired of folks hating on California. We are the underdog right now, and we need leadership, and we need a unified desire to support us. I've been working with Republicans and Democrats from California on how we can make sure that we get the disaster support that we need.
you talked about this, but are you worried that when Donald Trump does take office, he will punish California for political reasons and hurt its ability to get aid, judging from what you're hearing from Johnson, who says he's going to be speaking to his colleagues about putting these conditions potentially in place?
Well, I know that the governor and the mayor of Los Angeles have reached out to President-elect Trump and have invited him to survey the damage. I am also asking Speaker Johnson and some of his Republican colleagues to come to Altadena with us to see what is happening. We need a full-scale, all-hands-on-deck approach to how we are going to help California recover.